And I think the next speaker is Dr. Sachin Vahadne. He is now IMA secretary also, and he is consultant pediatrician at Vahadne Hospital since last 14 years, and is associate professor at Vikhe Patil Medical College and member of National Academy of Medical Sciences, secretary of IMA Ahmednagar, and he is going to share us his views regarding. There are different guidelines, because I think this is very different task which has been given to Sachin, which is very important. That what are the different guidelines? What is the difference? What is the difference between the guidelines? Because there are many guidelines have come. The IAP guidelines are there, then AIMS guidelines are there, then other guidelines, WHO guidelines are there. So I request Sachin to first explain IAP's guidelines, and then what are the different features which has been given to other guidelines. So over to you, Sachin, for his talk on different guidelines. Thank you very much. Sachin.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
I'm Dr. Sachin Vahadne. I will be talking about the guidelines for treatment of pediatric COVID, especially the IAP guidelines, which are quite this thing. In detail, they have given all the guidelines regarding treatment and this thing, management of COVID diseases. I've gone through all these guidelines. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines are similar to IAP guidelines. But IAP guidelines are in much more detail than Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So we'll be going through that. First, when to suspect COVID-19, this, as we have already discussed in previous lectures. First, the symptoms are fever, headache, myalgia, tiredness, coryza, cough, sore throat, tachypnea, or diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, or poor feeding in an infant, then loss of taste or smell, especially in kids more than 8 years of age, can tell about this loss of taste and smell, or rash and conjunctivitis. Non-purulent conjunctivitis is seen in COVID cases, then mucositis, then some severe cases may present with shock, and some cases are asymptomatic but has a close or household contact with a COVID-19 case. Most of the symptoms and signs of COVID-19 are non-specific and mimic any viral illness. Here we can see all the multi-system affection is there. And whom to test, which babies to test. Testing is recommended ideally for all the suspect cases. And it is well-known fact that kids may suffer a milder disease, but they are super spreaders. They spread the disease to other family members. And you can test prior to any procedure or any hospitalization due to other cause. Then if the resources are scarce, then testing may be deferred for both asymptomatic contacts and children with mild symptoms and without any comorbidities, and where a known positive family member is there, but he should be isolated. Such children may be presumed to be COVID-19 infected and be managed as per the guidelines in this document. These comorbidities can be any chronic disease like kidney disease, congenital heart disease, chronic liver disease, any neurodisability, any obesity, morbid obesity. In adults, we have seen that obesity is also one of the most important risk factors comparable to diabetes. Then severe malnutrition, any malignancy, and child is on some immunocompromised state, diabetes is there. In these cases, like comorbidities, even a mild case will be considered for admission and treatment. Then which tests are there? As everyone knows, there are tests like rapid antigen tests on nasopharyngeal swab. Sensitivity is low, around 30-35% sensitivity is there. If negative, RT-PCR has to be done. RT-PCR in nasopharyngeal plus oropharyngeal swabs is done. And antibodies also, if features of MIS is present, as we have already seen in the previous lecture In MIS, we do COVID antibodies also. Children with symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 but negative RT-PCR test should undergo repeat RT-PCR. Just a moment. Repeat RT-PCR and evaluated for other illnesses. If symptoms are protracted and RT-PCR is negative, CT chest may be done. If no alternative diagnosis, then treat as COVID-19. So RT-PCR negative, but CT scan positive COVID-19. Then what are the classifications of the disease? Mild, moderate, and severe. So what is the main difference between mild and moderate? In moderate, the child is having all the complaints, but along with that, he will be having tachypnea or hypoxia. So hypoxia means SpO2 in 90 to 94% of the range. Okay, and no signs of severe disease. Mild disease, all the mild symptoms are there, but without any tachypnea, without any hypoxia. Okay, and the severe disease are kids with pneumonia with any of the following present. That is less than 90% saturation is there, tachypnea is there, grunting is there. So all the accessory muscles of respiration working, that means increased work of breathing is there. Then lethargy, seizures, and drowsiness. These are signs suggestive of severe disease. Severe diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and critical disease. A subset of severe disease is defined if any of these is present along with above symptoms like ARDS is there, shock is there, multi-organ dysfunction syndrome is there, acute thrombotic episodes are there. Okay, so the severe disease is classified by these symptoms. If the hypoxia is severe, that is less than 90%. Okay, then what are the treatment modalities in different mild, moderate, and severe cases? In mild cases, OPD and home treatment is advised. Hydration is to be maintained. Infants are to be breastfed properly. There is no role of antibiotics in mild disease unless we suspect some associated bacterial infection. So for fever, we give paracetamol. For nasal block, we can give nasal saline drops. No investigations are required if mild disease is present. So IAP guidelines suggest that you should not do any investigations if only mild disease is present. Multivitamins may be given, but no proven values there. And always monitor for the red flag signs. So red flag signs like tachypnea, as the age appropriate respiratory rates we have already seen in the previous slides. Then saturation less than 95%, persistent fever is there, lethargy is there, drowsiness, poor feeding is there. In high-grade fever cases, high-grade fever lasting for more than 3 to 4 days could be due to COVID, but should also investigate. So after 3 to 4 days of fever, we should investigate for alternative diagnosis like CBC, CRP, urine routine, blood culture, chest X-ray, etc. Then if the child is having these mild symptoms, mild disease, mild COVID disease, but the child is having the comorbidities like we have seen in the previous slides, then if ready access to healthcare is present, child is residing in urban center, then continue as per the mild disease at home, ask them to monitor for the danger signals. But if the child is residing at a remote place, there is no ready access to healthcare, then admit for observation and evaluation and manage as per the comorbidities. So in mild disease, we don't admit, we give OPD treatment, no antibiotics, no investigations unless 3 to 4 days of disease is there. In moderate disease, admit in COVID-19 ward, investigations are to be done. That is complete blood count, renal function test, liver function test, CRP, chest X-ray. So in pediatrics, we rely more on chest X-ray and very rarely we go for CT scan chest. May be repeated at 48 to 72 hours as per the clinical condition of the child. If the saturation is more than 94%, hydration is to be maintained by giving IV fluids, paracetamol for fever, and antimicrobials can be given if a bacterial co-infection is suspected. So what are the antimicrobials that are suggested? IV amoxicillin or coamoxiclav or ceftriaxone is given if associated bacterial infection is suspected. So in moderate disease, saturation more than 94%, hydration, rarely antibiotics. If saturation is less than 94%, that is hypoxia is present, then oxygen is to be given, humidified oxygen we give, then IV steroids are to be given. Here they have mentioned that we can give remdesivir also for moderate diseases, and antimicrobials if associated bacterial infection is present. So remdesivir, the doses, it is to be given only in hospital settings. The dose is from 3.5 to 40 kg child, 5 mg per kg on day 1, 2.5 mg per kg from day 2 to day 5. And more than 40 kg child, then we give as adult dose, 200 mg on day 1 and 100 mg from day 2 to day 5. Then to be used within 10 days of onset of symptoms. So like they have seen, they have said that when the child's symptoms start or any COVID patient symptom starts from second day to 9th day, remdesivir seems to be helpful. It just reduces the stay of the patient, COVID-19 patient, but it doesn't reduce the mortality of the patient. It is contraindicated if liver function tests are or SGPT, SGOT are more than 5 times normal, or if creatinine clearance is less than 30 ml per minute. It is quite nephrotoxic. Then IV steroids. IV steroids can be given in this moderate disease. 0.15 mg per kg of IV Dexa, maximum 6 milligrams once daily for 5 to 14 days, and it has to be stopped at discharge. Other steroids like methylprednisolone, etc., can be used in special situations. Then severe or critical disease. Here, the child is to be admitted in a ICU or some high dependence unit is present in the hospital, then HDU unit. Investigations, CBC, RFT, LFT, CRP, procalcitonin is to be done in this case. D-dimer, arterial blood gases, lactate. Hello. Please mute everybody else. Then ECG, as in the previous lecture by Ujjwala, she said that it is to be repeated every 48 hours. Then chest X-ray is to be done. If needed, the TROP1, if cardiac involvement is suspected, like cardiac involvement in the form of pericarditis, myocarditis, then valvulitis can be present. Some coronary abnormalities like thrombosis, aneurysms can be present. If we suspect some cardiac abnormalities, then we do TROP-T test. An echocardiography is to be done. Ferritin, serum ferritin is to be done in some cases. LDH is to be done and may be repeated at 24 to 48 hours as per the clinical conditions. So some tests from these can be repeated as per our clinical judgment. Then oxygen is to be started, and in severe cases, ARDS cases, mild cases, as we have seen in the previous lecture, if needed, we give high flow nasal oxygen. Then in some cases, non-invasive ventilation CPAP can be used, and in severe RDS cases, invasive ventilation with low tidal volumes can be used. Then you can consider prone positioning also, and you should restrict the fluids. Fluids should be given very judiciously. And in these severe cases, as we have seen in the moderate disease, we can give IV steroids. Then remdesivir can be given. Then in thrombotic, this thing is suspected, or prothrombin, PTD, etc., are suggestive of this thrombotic complaints. Then enoxaparin can be given, and along with that, antimicrobials are to be given if associated bacterial infection is present. Then, if a child presents with shock, then a shock is to be managed. Then ARDS is, if the child is presenting, then we have to go for CT scan, then clinically judge whether it is mild or severe ARDS and treat accordingly. Then acute kidney injury is there along with this, then we can go for the dialysis and the renal support. Then HLH can be present, it has to be treated accordingly. Myocarditis is to be treated as per the protocol.
Sachin?
Yes, sir.
Can you please finish in 2-3 minutes?
Yes, sir. Now, we have finished with the mild, moderate, severe cases. MIS, I think Ujjwala is covered in our previous lecture. So the slides are same, the management is same. We should avoid duplication. So as per these this thing, the IAP guidelines I find quite exhaustive, and they are quite similar to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines, except for this. In WHO guidelines, they have omitted remdesivir. They don't advise to give remdesivir. The newer guidelines also from the Ministry of Health also suggest that remdesivir is to be avoided in all COVID-19 patients. They have removed from the advisory also. So like using remdesivir, I think there is still controversy in adults also, and there will be a controversy for using this thing in pediatrics also. So I think everybody's experience will be different for using remdesivir. So those who are managing pediatric COVID cases right now, they can comment about use of remdesivir and how it is, how much it is helpful in management of severe cases, and is it really reducing the stay of the this thing patients if remdesivir is given as compared to the cases where the remdesivir is not given. So other guidelines are not that exhaustive as compared to the IAP guidelines, I suppose. And there is some minor differences in WHO. They don't advise remdesivir. Even the Ministry of Health also is not advising remdesivir. But our IAP guidelines are advising remdesivir as of today. These guidelines were published in April. So maybe they will be revised in due course as pediatricians start gaining experience all in management of COVID. I think guidelines may be revised in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. It was excellent review of the guidelines, and most important thing is that actually guidelines are revising every day and now. Means actually the guidelines may be revised within 1 month time, or maybe revised in 3 weeks time. So whenever there are newer guidelines, we'll have to follow that.